Okay, so let's unpack something that's really, really very uncomfortable for a lot of folks. Sometimes you have to crawl your way through stuff, and there isn't going to be a cheerleader. Even if you have, a battle buddy or something like that, sometimes you have to crawl alone. You have to carry your rock alone. You have to learn. That's how you get stronger. That's how you build resistance. But if you're going to need to look your spiritual journey to look like you're always going to hear positive stuff just the moment that you need it, you're always going to hear what you need when you need it. How about that? And it may not always come in the form of somebody's holding your hand and holding your head while you throw up in a bucket and digest all of the weird shit, or try to digest or purge what you've already taken in. So going by faith means that I'm going to have to go by faith, not by sight, because the sight that I need fully to navigate this darkness is being forged right now. The light that I think I need to navigate this darkness isn't here yet. That's what I'm bringing. That's what I'm here to do in my own stuff. So when we're moving by faith and not sight, when we can't literally see, we're developing the skill, if we're trying, especially we're developing the skill to learn how to deal with the unknown without losing our mind. And when we need a pep talk, that's running back to the surface, grabbing a quick breath of air and some sunshine and trying to take it down into the depths with us, and that be the source of how we're going to crack the rest of that code on that. And unfortunately, that's the whole point of a dark night of the soul, is that we don't get burped up, cheering sections who just erect themselves automatically just because we feel terrible. It's an awful day and it shouldn't be happening to us that I feel this bad. Or I need somebody to inspire me into taking my next breath. Unfortunately, that actually doesn't happen, every day and in every way that we'd want it to. If we did, that would be wonderful, except none of us would ever learn how to be, stronger in what we're doing. As much as I don't love, getting slapped around and stuff and didn't appreciate that brutal way of living that I used to do, I learned a lot and learned resilience. So let's learn resilience 222 in a different way. And part of resilience training is understanding that in spirituality anyway, part of my resilience training was ain't nobody coming to give you a pat on your back today for waking up and working to be a better human. There's nobody that's going to give you a Scooby snack the way that you want it to be, because what you're asking to fulfill, what you're asking for, is an alleviation of something that's an ache in you. And they couldn't reach that to scratch it, touch it, or to alleviate the itch. They can't get to that spot. That's a spot that you can't scratch on your own. Too bad. Figure out how to get there on your own, because it is yours. They can't even see where your itch is, but you want them to be the one to scratch. Let me see. Do you even know where it is in you? No, most of us don't. We just want the Scooby snack because I just want you to give me a Benadryl right quick so I don't have to itch anymore. Unfortunately, the discomfort and the itchy, that's the indicator that there's something not settling in the awareness of the body, the surrounding. There's something that's putting an allergic reaction out there. That's the intuition saying something isn't right here. And yet we want to just take a Benadryl for it, suppress the reaction. Why don't you stop, hanging out in places where you're allergic to stuff? However, if we don't know that correlation, then we're going to keep asking for a Benadryl, or we're going to want a Scooby snack. When we've had a bad day, we want to pick me up. Why? Why do I need a pick-me-up, And that's how I learned about what resilience is going to look like for you, Kate. Maybe other people's training is different. However, my curriculum included, please stop reaching out, asking for people to care what you're going through. They don't. People are pretty self-serving. They're pretty into their own thing. And we're pretty, isolated in our pods of what we give a shit about, especially whenever other people are in pain and we can't hang with watching someone who's writhing, or we don't care that they're writhing. It didn't matter. I was out there, and I need help. I can't do this and I can't do that. And it was sad. It was awful. I'm not saying that, I couldn't have used a little pick me up with somebody going, hey, are you okay over there? It's not the reality, though, is that if we're waiting for other people to care or to do something to give us a Scooby snack when we think we most desperately need it, That's the exact time that we won't receive it, or that we'll take a sloppy Scooby snack that's covered in, dog shit and urine. We'll eat that and call that good because, well, it started out as a Scooby snack, I guess, Aw, are you having a bad day? Poor thing. Is that really the Scooby snack you wanted? Or shall you just deal with your pain and suffering on your own? The butthurt about, well, how come nobody cares? Because we're selfish creatures and we really don't give a fuck about anybody else about ourselves before we care. Excuse me, we only care about ourselves. We care about nobody else before we care about ourselves, generally speaking. Or we're on the other side where we care way too much about everybody else and we never care about ourselves. And finding somewhere in the balance is understanding sometimes you got to self-soothe. Sometimes you got to suck your thumb, cry, roll around in your bed, on the floor, wherever you got to go, and be your own Scooby snack provider. That's not easy. However, it's also not instant, nor could it be. That's a grown skill and a known skill once you know how to do it and you actually train it. Mozart might be the only person, not the only person, he's the only famous person I can reference as a point of understanding that Mozart is the genius, musical genius that could sit down at the piano and start playing it too. Most of us, we're going to need to take lessons. We're going to need a teacher. We're going to need some sort of, process of how do I learn how to do this again? Because even the natural skill of being able to do a certain something, we still are going to need someone that can kind of coach us and help the pedagogical process to refine it. That's what the Scooby snacks don't do. Scooby snacks are not forgers. Scooby snacks are actually things that make us soft. That's like saying, yeah, it's okay, take the rest of the afternoon off, Bob. I can see that you're really tired from lifting weights, even though what you're trying to do is become, a weightlifting champion. Why would your coach let you off the hook and say, oh, that's terrible. You look like you're having a rough day, huh? They're probably going to modify what they expect of you that day, but if they're a good coach and a good, leader, a good somebody that's going to really help you step up your game, they're going to say, hey, don't leave this training environment under those circumstances. Leave this training environment where it's a little much for your body today to take in. That's okay. That's good. That's a skill too, to recognize where you are and what you can actually tolerate and moderate successfully. That's good. Know what you can lift in a day. However, you just slamming it down and going, I can't, I gotta go now, and wienering out and walking off, that is not how we do this process. Identifying that this is a lot, I need to back up and I need to, look at what's going on here and assess, because I'm feeling very, challenged and overwhelmed by this right now, is the authoritative way to take an assessment of this is where I am with stuff, this is what I'm capable of doing, and this is what I feel like is the wise decision to make for myself. Have you any thoughts on this? And if a coach, is working with someone and really understanding what the need is, hey, can you press out, just warm up before you go, cool down before you go, pump out a few push-ups or do something, whatever, to cool down. Can you at least stretch yourself further than, I'm not going to announce defeat. I'm not going to walk with my head, hung down. I'm not going to do that. And I'm also not going to stay here another 3 hours in the gym and keep doing this. I don't have quite that much. However, I am going to, I can extend myself, push just a little to, bounce for 1 minute or lift something else just to cool down and say, cool, okay, I've closed this out properly. When we just wiener away and we just let things kind of slip and we get real oozy and slippery and leave fuzz everywhere, that's when we don't feel good, and then we want more Scooby snacks because we want what we've given ourselves the authority to call what we feel good about, and it really isn't true. Otherwise, we wouldn't need the approval of other people. That's just all there is to it, and it's a sucky truth. However, we don't need the approval of other people, and we don't need the infusion of, don't worry, it'll get better. We don't need that. It is a nicety. Absolutely, it certainly is. It's a nicety. However, it's not going to ever work in our favor for us to just be very grateful for some extra support when we could use it and we're going through a tough time. We're going to have a hard time getting to that point when we're nursing from everything that needs to identify whether we're okay or not, or that identifies itself as the thing that is okay to drink and nurse on, and what you're doing is obviously not correct. So I'm not going to suggest ever that anybody go, I just can't cope unless I, get my blast of inspiration. Perhaps there's inspiration on the floor. Some of the greatest inspiration I've had was when I was literally on my floor, crying, gripping, growling, throwing up a little, writhing in literal physical pain, and just cracked wide open, couldn't stand it anymore. I'm like, I don't know what else to do. Just being everything in the rawness of, I don't know what you want, but I certainly need something more than this to just keep continually being pounded. This got to stop. This is where the inspiration to at least announce that whatever this is, stop it right here. Waiting for somebody to give me a Scooby snack so I could pick myself up into the position of authority. Fuck that. As Marvin says on Red, poop to that. No, I think the inspiration came when my face was in the dirt with, I've had enough. After about 2 hours of rolling around like that, it wasn't an easy process. However, that was one of those things that I had in one of the most deepest, most catalytic converting experiences that I've ever had. However, it wouldn't have gone there if I'd have been happy with somebody saying, don't worry, it'll be okay. If I'd left it at that, or if somebody had been able to leave me there with that, I might have gone to bed. 11:11 just passed. Without acknowledging that, that really doesn't feel good when people give me a halfway, it'll be okay, and they have no idea really what I'm going through, or they don't care. I mean, there's no reason why they should. It's not that. It's just I haven't solved anything here. If other people are satisfied with wafers, communion wafers for a meal, I'm not. So I've never been terribly satisfied with people's, sunshine and rainbows inspirations. They've never really quite worked for me. However, when I started admitting on my floor that, oh my God, make this stop. If you are everything you say you are, you're going to show me how to be that, or you're going to take over in a much kinder way. One of us is in charge here. And then it came to me through all of that. Battle your own demons, man. When you have to lie on your own swords and battle your own demons, and don't expect a pick-me-up to come in the middle and say, don't worry, sunshine, it'll be okay, keep going. Let yourself be beat up, stabbed to death, parenthetically and metaphorically, until you finally can get to the point of expressing yourself whatever way you know, to know that ongoing Scooby snacks are delaying you from hearing the truth of the fact that it's time. Stay in the gym and clear the gym the way that it's proper to clear the gym. If you stay for an hour, or you stay for 10 hours, or you stay for 10 minutes, own the 10 minutes you're there, righteously and upright, or don't freaking show up and say that that's what you're going to do that day. Because when you show up in places where you really have some big hot goals that are really moving somewhere, and you treat them with the casual disregard of where you came up out of, they're not going to work. They don't understand what you're trying to do. The goal doesn't understand which way you're trying to work this, bro, because I got a very clear message. So you were looking to be at the gym. So the gym's over here and we're here. All the impetus and all the bite and the fight are right here to go, cool, we're in the gym. And yet you cleared us weird and you treated us like we weren't really real. So the dream is wandering around wondering, do we need to eat a Scooby snack? Because dreams really don't sustain themselves on Scooby snacks from other people. We really feast from in here, feeding from source. The thing that person over there, really their diet is designed with eating that stuff, not the communion wafers out here. But the dream is trying to work with the person that, okay, but if you just clean up how you're moving. So it's not a matter, I got to log exactly 1 hour or 400 days doing this. I have to, do it this way. It's a matter of claim the cleanness or the righteousness or the balance or whatever you're going to call all that. Claim what you're doing in a space where it is very clear what you're doing. And if you're moving in a road that starts to really, this is unstable and it's really not feeling good, or this is too much, you find it's okay, restructure the arrangement with yourself and with your dream. That I'm showing up here right now in the physicality, working on my dream of being a big-ass weightlifter. However, today, 1414 is a 5'5". Let's change that right here. Is that I'm really just overwhelmed and taxed a bit on my physicality, and this isn't going to work like this. Okay, cool. Then own that and say we need to renegotiate the terms of my own boundary with my own self and my own little agreement with myself in my dream that, hey, I'm going to be in the gym every day for 10 hours. Today, I'm not going to be in the gym more than 10 minutes because this is just too much. If I see myself patterning in with doing that 2, 3, 4 times a week, that's increasing into, yeah, I just gave myself an out. However, when we show up and we have integrity about today's the day when I can honestly assess myself and say, yeah, this really is too much. This is physically too much. It's emotionally, whatever. And we can identify that that's exactly when we can, how we can figure out the pattern, or excuse me, the pathway to get out of it. Is that I've identified the problem, which is now how I know what the solution is. This is it's too much. I'm experiencing, and the danger of going forward is that I'll tear a muscle or whatever, and I see that. I know that I'm there. Until I'm actually paying attention to what I'm doing, I'm showing up with integrity and clean, then I'm not going to be paying attention to any of that. I'm going to be busy logging my required time, looking for my Scooby snack, and wondering how I'm going to cope with the fact that I got to go home. It's been 10 minutes, but, I know I should. Or I risk the injury that I'm going to sustain whenever the people around me browbeat me into being a man, man up, or being a woman and woman up, whatever we're being told, to bump it up somehow artificially. When we know that's going against our boundary, our dream understands, because the dream is going to remain suspended in space and worked with, every time you show up clean, to offer it clean intervention. Showing up in that other stuff, the dream, that you're not working with the dream, you're working with a filter before you ever get to your dream, and the dream is on the other side going, we can't decode this. What is she trying to say? Because she's in the gym, but there's okay. Well, we'll keep working to try to decode this, but it's really complicated. Can you clean up your messaging? And the answer is yes, the minute that we know how. Play with your Play-Doh directly. Please stop playing with your Play-Doh through a window. You don't have to. But until you know where the Play-Doh is, what it is, and that's what's happening, we're going to continue to try snacking on stuff that isn't feeding us, and really not understanding that breadcrumbing really isn't constituting as a meal anyway. And, there's more sustainable living right here. When we not feed on ourselves, that's self-destruction. The feed on the connection, allow that to be the IV infusion from source. And that is how we are fed. Totally different. Take care.